David and Lisa's love story had started in the most unexpected way. At a bookstore in a city neither of them called home. Lisa, a travel journalist, had been browsing through the poetry section when she noticed a man arguing with the cashier over a book that was accidentally double priced. Amused by his passionate debate about consumer rights, she stepped in with a clever remark. For a guy who looks like he's never read a poem in his life, you're awfully invested in this one. David turned, ready to fire back a witty response, but the sight of Lisa, her messy bun, the way she clutched a coffee cup like it was a lifeline, her sharp brown eyes filled with mischief, left him momentarily speechless. She grinned, and before he knew it, they were sitting at a corner cafe debating the merits of modern poetry versus classic literature. What started as a random conversation turned into a whirlwind romance. Late night calls, shared playlists, and stolen weekends became their routine. But there was one problem. Lisa's job required her to be constantly on the move, and David was rooted in New York as a software engineer. They both swore the distance wouldn't change how they felt. They promised they would fight for it, no matter what. The first year was blissful, filled with dramatic airport goodbyes and romantic reunions. But by the second year, cracks began to show. The longing, the misaligned schedules, the occasional pan of loneliness, it all started to take a toll, especially on Lisa, who began questioning whether love could truly survive in the gaps between flights and phone calls, a test of love that had seen countless late night calls, surprise deliveries, and whispered promises of a future together. They lived for the thrill of stolen moments and planned visits, always yearning for the next time they could hold each other again. But the distance was starting to weigh on them, and Lisa, in particular, was beginning to feel its toll. With Valentine's Day approaching, David was determined to make it the most special one yet. He spent weeks researching, second guessing himself, and finally selecting the perfect gift, a delicate gold necklace with Lisa's initials, chosen not just for its beauty, but for the meaning it carried. It was more than jewelry, it was a promise, a symbol of their love. He arranged for it to be delivered on the morning of February 14th, envisioning the way Lisa's face would light up when she saw it. However, as David poured his heart into making their love feel tangible across the miles, Lisa felt herself slipping into loneliness. Doubt whispered in the back of her mind. Had their relationship become more of a habit than a passion? Was David as committed as she was? These thoughts mixed with the seemingly endless waiting created the perfect storm for misunderstanding and heartbreak. A week before Valentine's Day, Lisa began to feel a growing distance between her and David. His responses were slower, his messages shorter, and his excuses about being swamped with work became a daily refrain. What she didn't know was that David was secretly planning a surprise visit, juggling his job responsibilities and coordinating the perfect moment to reveal himself. But Lisa, feeling increasingly insecure, found herself overanalyzing every interaction. Had his feelings changed? Was he losing interest? One night, as she stared at her phone, her mind racing with doubts, she texted him, "Do you still love me?" David, exhausted from an all-night planning session, barely glanced at his screen before responding, "Of course. Why do you ask?" Then he set his phone down and drifted off to sleep, unaware of the storm brewing on Lisa's end. The lack of warmth, the absence of reassurances, his brief response fell cold. It gnawed at Lisa's heart. Was she being ridiculous? Or was this the beginning of the end? She confided in her coworker Jake, a charming and easygoing guy who had always been a listening ear. Over a casual after-work drink, she spilled her fears. Jake smirked and teased. Maybe he's got someone else on the side. Long-distance relationships, you never know. Lisa laughed, shaking her head. No, Davy's not like that. But later that night, as she lay in bed, Jake's words echoed in her mind. Doubt planted its seed, and from there it began to grow. The morning of Valentine's Day was unusually cold, a biting wind sweeping through the city as Lisa woke up to an empty bed. The silence felt heavier than usual. She reached for her phone, half expecting a sweet message from David, but instead all she saw was a late night text from him. Hope you have a good day today, love. No long message, no heartfelt words, just that. Lisa sighed, rolling onto her back, staring at the ceiling. She had been hoping for something more, something that reassured her that the distance wasn't stretching them apart like a rubber band ready to snap. But lately, David had been more absent than present. Just then, a knock sounded on her door. It was Jake. Hey, sleepyhead, thought you could use a pick me up, he said, holding up 2 steaming cups of coffee. His easy smile made her feel lighter, like she wasn't alone in this. Lisa hesitated, then let him in. Thanks, Jake. I swear, you're better at showing up for me than my own boyfriend these days. Jake smirked, sitting on the couch. Well, I am physically here. Maybe that's what you need. A guy who doesn't have to love you from 1,000 miles away. Lisa rolled her eyes, but deep down, something in his words stung. Was she truly happy in this relationship? She shook the thought away and changed the subject. Let's go grab brunch. I need a distraction. At the cafe, between laughter and light-hearted conversation, the nagging doubts about David kept creeping back in. When Jake leaned in closer, brushing a stray strand of hair from her face, she didn't pull away. She told herself it was harmless, just comfort, just friendship. Then her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Your order has been delivered. Lisa barely glanced at it, too wrapped up in her moment with Jake. Probably a work package, she muttered, pushing her phone aside. Meanwhile, miles away, David was stepping off the plane, clutching a bouquet of roses, heart racing with anticipation. He imagined Lisa opening her gift, how she'd call him instantly, overwhelmed with joy. But minutes passed, no message, no call. Growing uneasy, he checked the tracking. Delivered. Confused, he quickly typed, Did you like the gift? Minutes passed, no response. Then, finally, Lisa, what gift? David's stomach turned to stone. Something wasn't right. If she didn't have it, where was it? And more importantly, if she wasn't home to get it, where was she? Hours later, Lisa arrived home, her mind still tangled in confusion and lingering guilt. She hadn't heard from David in hours, and though she told herself everything was fine, a gnawing anxiety settled in her stomach. She nearly tripped over the package by her doorstep. Picking it up, she read the label, David's name, his careful handwriting in the sender section. Her heart clenched. He had sent her something after all. With trembling fingers, she tore open the box. Inside, nestled in velvet, was the most beautiful gold necklace she had ever seen, her initials delicately engraved on a tiny pendant. A surge of emotion washed over her. He had thought of her. He still cared. Tears welled in her eyes as she typed out a quick thank you message. Thank you. It's beautiful. She smiled through her tears and pressed send. But in her haste, she didn't notice that she had sent it to Jake instead of David. A few minutes later, her phone buzzed. Jake, I knew you'd love it. Happy Valentine's. Beautiful. Lisa froze. Her heart slammed against her ribs. What? Before she could correct the mistake, her phone buzzed again. This time it was from David's best friend, Clara. Clara, cute necklace. Jake has great taste. Lisa, you are so lucky. Lisa's stomach dropped. How did Clara even know about the necklace? A cold sense of dread curled in her chest. Had Jake said something? Had people been watching? Then another message appeared, this time from David. David, I just landed. Can't wait to see you. Also, who's Jake? David, standing outside Lisa's apartment with flowers, knocked with a pounding heart. He had envisioned this moment so differently, her eyes lighting up with joy, her arms wrapping around him in a tight embrace. Instead, when she opened the door, her face paled, confusion quickly giving way to panic. Who's Jake? David's voice was quiet but sharp, laced with something Lisa had never heard from him before. Betrayal. Lisa's stomach dropped. What are you talking about? She pulled out her phone, her fingers shaking as she scrolled through her messages. And then she saw it. The mistaken text, the wrong recipient. Her heart slammed into her ribs. No, 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 she stammered. I meant to send that to you. Jake had nothing to do with it. David's lips pressed into a thin line, his knuckles white around the bouquet. Then why? He asked slowly. Has my best friend been telling me that you and Jake have been inseparable lately? Why do people think he bought you that necklace? Lisa hesitated, guilt twisting her insides. Because I felt like you were slipping away. I was lonely, David. I just needed someone to talk to. David exhaled, running a hand through his hair. The anger in his eyes flickered, replaced by something even worse, hurt. I was planning this huge surprise for you, Lisa. I flew here to be with you, and I was terrified the whole time that I was already too late. And now, I don't know if I was wrong to worry. Lisa's breath hitched. You didn't lose me, David. I was scared, that's all. Scared that you weren't as invested anymore, that I was just waiting around for something that was fading. I never meant to. A sudden buzz from Lisa's phone cut through the tense silence. She glanced down, dread filling her, as she saw Jake's name flashing across the screen. A new message. So, did you tell him? David saw it too. His jaw clenched. Tell me what, Lisa? Lisa's heart pounded. It's not what you think. And tell me what it is. David snapped, stepping back, the heart boiling over into frustration. Because right now, it looks like you've been hiding something from me all along. Tears pricked Lisa's eyes. This wasn't how this was supposed to go. But then again, maybe things had been unraveling for longer than she realized. And now, she wasn't sure if they could put them back together. David handed Lisa the flowers, his expression unreadable. I love you, Lisa, but this distance, it's been hard. And after today, I don't know if we're strong enough to survive it. Lisa swallowed hard, guilt gnawing at her. I know I should have trusted you more. I should have talked to you instead of letting my doubts get the best of me. David exhaled, looking away for a moment before meeting her gaze again. And I should have reassured you more. Maybe I got too caught up in the surprise and forgot that what you really needed was to feel like I was here, even when I wasn't. Lisa wiped a tear from her cheek and forced a small smile. So, are we still doing dinner? David hesitated before nodding. Yeah, but this isn't just about dinner, Lisa. We need to figure out if we're really in this for the long haul, because I can't be the only one fighting for us. Lisa nodded, reaching for his hand. You're not. I promise. The night ended with a fragile truce, cautious smiles, and an unspoken understanding that things would never be quite the same. But as they sat together, eating in quiet reflection, the question lingered. Can love truly survive distance? Or does it always need a test to prove its strength?